Hi everyone. I'm Shahin, the main author for the paper. I'm from LinkedIn, but basically this work has been done while I was and the other authors were at Turn. So some of you might ask actually, what's online advertising got anything to do with the enterprise intelligence? But if you think about it, as if an enterprise solution is for a software that you use at your workplace, all the advertisers in a big company use the advertising tools that Turn provides in their workplace, right? To be able to sell their products in the consumer market, basically. So that's why what we provide here is actually to give an intelligence of over the intelligence that the advertisers use. I will make sure that I get my point right. So basically, what the advertisers do to be able to target certain types of users to sell their products is actually they utilize first and third party data. So basically what first party is the data that the advertisers themselves hold, and that's their priority, the data that they own. But they can also utilize the third-party data, which is basically sold by data providers, right? So what they do is, in the online advertising case, when they do show an impression over a user, meaning that they show an ad to a user, if they choose this user based on a certain type of category or a segment, they will have to pay the data providers some kind of money, right? So per impression base. So the big problem here is they need to actually evaluate whether the quality of the data source that they use is good for their purpose. So the type of applications that they would, this would be useful for is, of course, the targeting I've been talking about. They want high precision on the data sources that utilize, so that, for example, if they are targeting a female user between the ages of 20 to 25, they want to make sure that they are not targeting a male user that is like 65 years old, right? So that's kind of an important point. The second is the forecasting problem. So basically what it says is, suppose I'm not using any data source, but I say I'm going to target certain websites. I'm going to show my ad on these websites. So they want to see, if I show my ads on these websites, what's the percentage of the different categories I'm going to reach, right? So based on, even for this purpose, we can actually utilize first and third party data to classify the users into these categories, and then count these categories and say, okay, your percentage of reaching, let's say, female ages 20 to 25 or Mercedes users is this and this. So, okay, this kind of seems like a simple problem, assuming we have some kind of confusion matrix, right? If we actually knew the quality of the data source, then it would be very easy. You would just decide to use the data source and see if you want to actually pay for the data source in the impression base, because is it really worth using this, is spending this kind of dollar on this data source to address these kind of users? Does the kind of the spending actually make up for the gains? But the big problem is we do not have that kind of data for especially third-party data sources. So what do we do? Basically what we need to do is actually evaluate these data sources, and that's the contribution of the paper. Basically what it says is, if we have another third party evaluator which at the end of an advertising campaign gives us aggregated view of the categories. So basically the problem here is that, for example, if we are just looking for genders, like what percentage of female and male did we reach, right? So it is, for the privacy reasons, we do not really know in the impression base if a user is in a certain age or a certain gender or in a certain category, for sure, right? The data source says it's true, but we do not know the ground truth, right? But there are certain, companies which actually provide data to us in aggregate form, which is taken as ground truth, right? We take it as ground truth, but we do not have, very, per user data. Basically what we do is we try to solve an optimization problem. So basically what it says is, well, actually, there are two solutions. One is the naive solution, which basically says that we need to set up a campaign targeting only a certain data source, and we need to collect the statistics and basically look at whether this data source was accurate or not. But this is costly because you have to spend money to actually set up these campaigns, and you need some manual labor. Another solution that we provide is what we call a precision inference approach. Basically, what it says is, forget about actually setting up specific campaigns. You can actually collect data from many campaigns, see what the data sources would have said about them, and see what the actual ground truth return was on them. So basically, when you do that, you can actually set up the parameters that you want to learn per data source, and you can actually solve the optimization problem to actually get the precision and accuracy for data sources and stuff like this. Okay, that's all.